So let us begin, because today we are continuing the Valentine theme, and today we are going to be talking about me, who actually Saint Valentine was. So I shall turn off comments. I do love you all, as you know, but it all blocks the images. And I shall show you my first image of St. Valentine. Oh, yeah, this is St. Valentine. This is an image it's a very early image of St. Valentine, and he's the one in the white, humbly submitting to getting his head chopped off by the guy in the green over on the right hand side. And we know it's St. Valentine because look, his name is very usefully written on the bottom of the image there. So this is an early image. This is, it probably even dates back to about 1310. It's in a wonderful book called The Queen Mary Psalter, which is held in the British Library. And you could quite reasonably be thinking at this moment, okay, what has this got to do with St. Valentine? Is this the St. Valentine that we know? Has she got it wrong? No, because his name is at the bottom there. And you might also be thinking, hang on a minute, the guy that is about to chop his head off looks remarkably like Margaret Thatcher. I'm really sorry. I know this is so random, but it just made me giggle. Look at him. Okay, a close up, not such a good close up, but look, there he is there. Margaret Thatcher. Guy chopping his head off. Margaret Thatcher. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I see all sorts of strange things. But that's what he reminded me of. So Valentine was a martyr. He's getting his head chopped off. He wasn't going to become a saint if he hadn't done something, if he hadn't been important in the Christian religion. But it took quite some time for him to really become associated with the practice of hearts and flowers and the Valentine's Day that we know and celebrate today. So that, as I mentioned last time on my last episode of Elevenses, I was saying that actually St. Valentine was begun to be celebrated because he was martyred on the 14th of February, and on the 15th of February was a huge riotous, crazy pagan festival called the Lupercalia. So the Christian church was very keen to bring something in to sort of replace that. So this idea of this sort of Saints' Day, and that's probably the wrong terminology in terms of the Catholic religion, but sort of St. Valentine kind of was brought in to sort of supersede all this running through the streets, whipping people with goat skins, which we talked about last week. But it wasn't until actually the 14th century that it began to become associated with love. And the first time that Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, began to be associated with love was in the late 14th century. In 1375, there's a reference to it, and this is thought to be the first reference, or at least one of the first kind of important reference, or one that people knew about, in Chaucer's poem, The Parliament of Fowls. And he writes, it just pops up in these two lines. Excuse me, I'm going to read it because otherwise I'll get it wrong. This was sent on Valentine's Day when every bird comes to choose their mate. So this is what Chaucer writes in Parliament of Fowls. And he doesn't write it like that. He writes, "For this was sent on Saint Valentine's Day, when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate." I don't know why he said it. Was that a bit Scottish? Not my talent, maybe. Actually, my old English teacher, my old A-level English teacher, used to read Chaucer for radio, I think. He was really good at all that, but I didn't. Yeah, that's not something that I picked up from him, really. Anyway, so this is the first reference to Saint, or to the, not to St. Valentine, but to the fact that on this day birds come to choose their mates. And if birds do it, well, why can't young people do it? So kind of after this time, after the late 14th century, this sort of the association began. So if St. Valentine wasn't the patron saint of hearts and flowers, who on earth was he? Well, that's a moot point. He is. So there are two contenders. The first contender is that he was a bishop over on the left-hand side. You can see him, very high forehead, should we say, very high forehead. And he was the first contender was that he was the bishop of Terni and Emilia and Narnia. Narnia is a real place. It's a hilltop town in northern Italy. And yes, C.S. Lewis did know about it. Apparently C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia. Oh my God, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I loved that book. I remember, really brief aside, but I remember so vividly, and Mum will be nodding away here. I remember so vividly reading the chapter, or having read to me the chapter where Aslan dies. Oh my God, I was in bits. In fact, I think another chapter had to be read. I was beside myself. Anyway, Narnia. So he did, C.S. Lewis did look on a map, and he loved the name. Okay, hopefully we're back. So he looked on a map and saw the name and chose it. Anyway, I digressed. So this is the Bishop of Narnia, amongst many other things, building a church by the looks of things, and he's the first contender of St. Valentine. And so the story of him is that he ran around. This was 3rd century. Most of the many saints were martyred in the 3rd century, and he was running around doing bishopy things and kind of making a nuisance of himself in terms of the pagan world. And so he was put under house arrest with one of the fairly eminent governors, treated quite well, and I think they got on great. And so one night, during his house arrest, he's chatting away to this governor, and I kind of like to think that they were kind of, having a few beers. I don't know, maybe it was even a really late night and they were doing tequila shots or something. But they started chatting, and the governor said, I just can't believe in your Christian faith. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. And the bishop's like, you gotta believe it. Okay, I'm imagining they had tequila shots. You gotta believe me. Oh, just tell me to do anything, okay? I can perform a miracle. Is this blasphemous? I didn't mean to offend anybody. And so the governor says, okay, well, if you think you can perform miracles, my daughter, as you know, is blind. So perform a miracle, restore her eyesight. And so he does. So this bishop manages to restore the eyesight of the daughter of this guy that he's staying with. So of course, then everybody in the household is converted, and now my doorbell's going. I should ignore it. So everyone in the household is converted, and the governor lets Valentine go free, and he carries on, kind of basically making a nuisance of himself, and eventually he gets caught, but the authorities catch up with him again. He gets taken to Rome, where he must be quite a nice chap, actually, this Valentine, because he meets the Emperor Claudius, who who also really rather likes him, until he just can't stop himself, Valentine, until he tries to convert the Emperor Claudius, and then that's just, that's a bit too much, and Claudius is like, look, I'm really sorry, mate, but this isn't happening, and so he has the choice. He can renounce his faith or get his head chopped off, and he chooses to get his head chopped off. So that, in a very long version, is the story of the bishop who is contender 1 for Valentine. St. Valentine. So here he is again as a bishop. This is an icon. I don't know what date it is. I'm thinking that this is after Chaucer, though, because look, you can see just coming out of my shoulder, if you can, if you have the same image as I'm seeing, there's a little the icon with a bird in it, and so this is sort of linking him with birds and flowers and kind of more Valentine-y things that we would be used to. So I think this is probably after the Chaucer poem. I'm fairly sure it was after the Chaucer poem was published. This, though, is the other contender for St. Valentine, who isn't a bishop, but he is a priest. Beautiful golden locks. Look at that lovely hairdo. Very, very nice. And we know, again, this is St. Valentine because he's got Valentinus, or Valentinus rather, written above his head. Very helpful. Thank you very much. And this is a really old image of St. Valentine, but it's in a book that dates to the 15th century. It's in the Nuremberg Chronicles. So not a bishop, but a priest. The story of the priest Valentine bears a few resemblances, I think you'll find, to the story of the Bishop Valentine. So in this story, Valentine already lives in Rome, and he is very well known for going around and doing great deeds and so on. And again, he kind of upsets the authorities. He gets thrown into prison, where he falls in love with one of the jailer's daughters. I don't know how he met the jailer's daughter, but he did. The jailer's daughter, guess what? She's blind. And guess what happens? He restores her eyesight. So all a bit similar. And then he converts everybody in jail, and then he gets let out of jail, and then he again pisses the emperor off by trying to convert the emperor, and then again he gets the choice of renounce your religion or get your head chopped off, and he chooses head chopping off. So you can see that these two stories definitely converge, don't they? So much so that, in fact, it's still unestablished in the Catholic Church as to whether there were two people called Valentine who did separate deeds, or whether Valentine was the same person. Certainly, they were also both buried north of Rome in the same sort of area. So it's an interesting one. Probably a good thing that there were potentially two of them, because Valentine was a busy old person. He was patron saint not of hearts and flowers, but of bees and beekeepers, as one thing, but also of, I love this image, this is another German woodcut, but also of epilepsy and epileptics. So here he is, curing some epileptics, which is just quite funny. So they're lying on the ground there, presumably, poor things, both of them having a fit, whilst people are bringing, over on the right hand side, bringing him offerings. So you've got the guy in green bringing him an unidentified parcel, and then the lady over on the right hand side in the red bringing him a rooster. Excellent, really good. They've got a nice little cat or a dog. Not entirely sure what that creature is in the middle, but the one down on the bottom left-hand side is a pig, which would be probably a symbol of the devil in this context. So, with the inference being that epileptics, there was something to do with the devil, and so he was able to drive the devil away. So yeah, busy old guy. I like the look on his face there. He's like, hey, watch this. I can do this. I got this, guys. I got this. So if you saw my stories, you might be wondering, or you might not be wondering anymore, who this skull belongs to. Yeah, one of the St. Valentines. Same person or not, they excavated the area in which both the bishop and the priest were supposed to have been buried, were reported to have been buried, and they found the remains. So this was in like 1800, somewhere around there. Only found maybe one person that they thought was St. Valentine. I don't know, there must have been loads of skeletons up there, so that whole thing confuses me a little bit. Anyway, they identified somebody that they definitely thought was St. Valentine. How? I don't know. And this skull is now in Santa Maria Cosmedin in Rome. The other bits are all over the place. There's a bit in France, and there's a bit in Scotland, Ireland, England. I think we've all got little bits of St. Valentine. Probably if there was two, there was quite a lot to go around. But maybe, as with many of these saints, just saying, they seem to have quite a number of limbs and number of heads on some occasions, because there are quite often more places that claim to have the bones of saints than is ever going to be at all possible. So this is St. Valentine's skull, even though we're not entirely sure which one he is. Such is the confusion that actually the Catholic Church in 1969 they kind of took him out of the saints calendar, because the confusion was too much, and they were unsure. But luckily they didn't ban Valentine's Day, and so St. Valentine still comes to us on the 14th of February, which is this Sunday, and you'll know the origins now. So bishop or saint, bishop or priest, we don't know. There we go, St. Valentine. Let's turn these off. There we go, and turn comments back on. Everything. Oh, hello, Steph. Instagram keep changing things, so yeah, everything's in different places, but it's all good. It's all good. So there you go. I bet you didn't know that St. Valentine was the patron saint of beekeepers, epileptics, and nothing to do with love, really, until he was kind of shoehorned into that position. Who knew? We're going to have a look later on at some of the earliest love letters. And I think, you can't really do a month of Valentine stuff without Cupid either, can you? So we're going to have a little chat about Cupid too. Brings a new meaning to my funny Valentine. Yeah, that's true. I love that song. Oh, God. Holly, write a song about St. Valentine. Fantastic. So I have got Valentine's talk tomorrow night at 7:00. If you want to join, there are still tickets available. So they're on my website, beyondthepalette.co.uk. It's just on the homepage. That's shaping up to be very good fun, a little bit interactive, but nothing scary. And I don't know whether you've seen the Elevenses blog now on my website. So now I'm linking up what I'm talking about on my Elevenses, on my Thursday morning Elevenses, with a blog on my website, so you can see the images again and so on. If you're interested, you can go there and have a look too. So I'll update that this afternoon for today's talk. Have a great day, everybody. It's sunny and lovely out there now, really nice. And I hope that you all have a lovely weekend and a lovely Valentine's weekend, whatever you're doing, whether you're with somebody or by yourself. I hope it's a nice time. So speak to you soon. Yes, I'm looking forward to those of you that have booked. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow too. Thanks very much for joining me, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.